Hey everyone, welcome back. This is our Memorial Day edition of our clay kits. Hopefully you've had a chance to have some fun with our previous kits. Today's kit will be similar to one of the ones we've done before, but with a different twist. So hopefully it will make sense to you, and it'll make sense for you, something that would be useful for you. We're calling it a loudmouth or a big mouth phone holder. And so what this does is it actually amplifies your phone. It's a phone speaker. So your cell phone actually goes inside. So what you'll need today, you'll need a cell phone, yours or mom's, so you don't mess it up, right? You'll need some water. I like to use a little cheap paintbrush just to put my water on, but you can use your finger or whatever. Your box that you'll pick up. So inside your box you'll have a bag with a big and a small piece of clay. You'll have a knife and a heavy-duty toothpick, and there'll be some plastic wrap or a bubble wrap in there too. You don't need that for now, we'll need that later. Alright, so the point of this project is for your cell phone to go inside of this piece and to make a speaker. So I don't know if you've ever put a phone inside a cup and listen to that, because it makes it much louder. And so that's the point of the big mouth here. And so what we're doing today is we're creating a speaker for your cell phone, like I said. So this is my wife, she made yesterday, so it's amazing. So you see how he's got his arms and he's like, ah, like opening up his mouth so you can hear everything. You'll see a big hole in the top, some eyes. He's got a kickstand or a tail so that when he's on its ground and your cell phone's like this and it's pointing out, it doesn't rock too far back. Okay, so we'll talk about that in the second part. The first part is just a pinch pot. So some of you might have done that before. What we're going to do is we're going to take out our bigger ball of clay from the bag, and we're going to wrap this back up and set that aside, so we don't need the small one yet. Okay, I really want to start with a nice round ball of clay. If you ever made a pinch pot before, you'll know some of this, but bear with me. So it's about 1.5 pounds of clay. We want it decent size. So we're taking our thumb, or plunging that inside. And you can do that on the ground or on the table or in your hand, but we're just making a big thumb hole in there, right? And then we're pinching. And so we're taking this, and I like to turn it as I go, squeeze. And you're trying to do even pressure all around so the walls stay similar in width as we go up. So and as you go, you can smooth it out, or you can wait till the end to smooth it out. Either way works. But remember our big guy. So the opening is pretty big, so we don't have to worry too much about how far we get. But I'm going to offer you some ideas at the end about different ways you can do this project. This guy is, like I said, this There's also a way to do a frog and different animals. You can do a monster. This is kind of like a monster, but he's more like just a guy with a big mouth. So that'll be up to you, and I'll include some links to other pages and pictures that'll have the basic setup and build that we did today, but that you can change the eyes or the face or the hands or the tail to make it just a little different and make it just your own. So that'll be up to you. So she's got her bowl about 3 inches tall, which mine's about there now. I might make mine a little taller, and that's fine. But also the mouth has to be big enough. What we want to do is get the thickness of the clay all around, and on the bottom somewhere between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. So you don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it too thin. It's got to hold itself up. So as we're building, what I'm going to start doing is checking, and setting it down like this on its side, because this is how it's going to live, right? Now if I just let that go, it'll fall back. So that's why we're going to add a tail or a kickstand like I talked about. But you want to check it to see if it's big enough to hold a phone. And so you can kind of keep checking with your phone to see, okay, is that big enough? If I cut a hole across there, would be enough. So I'm almost there. I'm going to go just a little bit more. I like mine to be a little taller instead of wider, but that's up to you. That's pretty much it for what I want to do. What I want to do at this point is just kind of go around, and any place I don't want wrinkles or any kind of weirdness, I'll just smooth out with my finger. I can use a tiny bit of water to smooth like a wrinkle or a crack out, but not much. We want this to dry. And so that makes us come up on the hardest part of our project so far, and that is to wait. And so right now, if we tried to start adding things to this, like the eyeballs and stuff, we'd squish it. So like push that down. So for now, what I want you to do is take your bowl, set it out, don't wrap it or cover it or anything, and let it sit for about a half an hour. I know that's hard, but what we need to do is firm up a little bit. What you want it to do when you come back is when you set it up on its edge, it doesn't squish. Okay, it doesn't like squish in. If you want to have it squish in for the mouth to be a little different, that's fine. Do that, but when we're working on it, we don't want to squish while we're working on it. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna double check. All right, I'm gonna let this sit, and I'll come back in a minute. Welcome back. Sorry about the wait. Now for phase 2, I want to show you guys a couple things. So this is one of the previous projects, the heart coil project. So you can see a couple of the colors. This is the turquoise and the red violet that we mentioned when you can choose colors for anything of the projects you do. There's a couple that you can see. I've shown floating blue before on one of the other videos. So our next step, so how we're going to do it is we're going to cut the hole in the top. I'll show you how in a second. Then we'll start adding the things. So if you want to add arms, like the mouth like this, the feet, the eyeballs, and the nose. So that's what we're going to do next. So I've let my coil pot dry. It's not mushy. We have to decide the top and the bottom. So let's see if I can adjust you down a little bit for this part. Okay. Alright, so decide which part is the bottom, and you kind of squish it down a little bit so it's flat on that spot. Okay, so it kind of sets. See what I'm saying? So it should look like this. Well, our next step to do is we have to use our phone and decide where our hole is going to go. Okay, this will be the most complicated part, not the hardest, but the most complicated. So what I'll do is with my little toothpick, I'm going to draw. So I've got my phone and kind of line it up as best I can, a little bit about an inch from the bottom, and I'm just going to sketch around the phone. Okay, just to draw a small rectangle. Okay, so if you can see that, I've drawn a small rectangle. Now that rectangle isn't big enough because when clay gets fired, it shrinks, and so we have to do bigger. Okay, so with my knife, what I'm going to do, I get a little wet, I need to cut the hole about a ½ inch wider, so from the short side up and down, and then I'm going to cut about another ½ inch length on either side. Now it's okay to be a little long this way. You don't want to be too wide this way because your phone will rattle a little bit, but this way it's fine. That'll give you a little more access to get in and out, and your phone won't get scratched or anything. Alright, so I'm going to kind of sketch that out, what that'll look like, so you guys can kind of see. Alright, there, and there. Alright, so the inside line is the actual width of your phone. The outside line is what we're actually going to cut out. Okay? So I'm going to take my knife really carefully, start cutting in. Hold on to your pot while you're doing this so it doesn't mash up. section. We've got a nice hole, okay? So you can take your phone and check it and make sure you did it right. Make sure it at least fits. Mine, I think I need it to be a little wider, okay? Because the angle it's coming down. And so I'm gonna take my knife, I want it to be bigger, not smaller, and cut out a little more. Because it has to be big enough after it fires to actually fit your phone in to work, okay? So I widened it a little bit more. Remember, it can be wider this way. You don't want too wide this way, but this way you can keep going just to be safe. Yesterday, my wife, when she made it, she used this little piece to make her feet, so we're gonna try that today. She's got a bunch of crazy feet on hers, so we can decide what we want, or you can decide what you want. I'm just gonna do 2 on mine, so that'll be the next thing, so it gets kind of stable. So I'm gonna cut little squares first. Again, this will be up to you what shape you want for your feet. So I'm gonna kind of smooth out that square with my fingers. And then anytime we attach clay to clay, we have to do a thing called slip and score or scratch and attach. So with your heavy duty toothpick, I'm gonna squish down a little bit of the back end, so like where your ankle would sit on your foot. So squish that down a little bit. And I'm gonna scratch, I'll show it to you in a second. Scratch that in part where I push down and make a little roughed up section, like little X's. So, see that? Now I'm gonna decide where I want that to attach into our mouth, right? And then I'm gonna scratch right where those are gonna go. There and there. Alright, so I've scratched 2 places, if you can see that, on the bottom. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of water, put a little on each spot that's scratched. Then I'm gonna take my foot, stick it on there, and squeeze, okay? And my second foot, stick it on there, and squeeze, okay? So now I have 2 little feet on the bottom of there. Now I'm gonna set it down and push some more. So that sits up really nice, okay? So we have feet that are holding it this way. One thing we're gonna add later is a tail or a kickstand, however you wanna call it, so that it doesn't rock back this way when your phone gets in there, okay? All right, so now we've got it nice and stable. Feet are on. Now we have to decide about the face, okay? Well, let's do the hands first, how about that? So if you like the way this looks, where the mouth is being ripped open so everyone can hear me scream, right? I'm gonna take my other ball of clay, set this aside for a second. I'm gonna kind of rip off a small handful like this, and do one more, and I'll set this aside, whatever's left. I'm gonna roll up a coil, a nice thick coil. You can do it on the table too, whatever's easiest for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one end thicker than the other. I'll show you one in a second. So almost like a baby carrot. You ever eaten a baby carrot? Those are good. My favorite. They come in a big bag. So we've got 2 baby carrots. Okay. Now what we're going to do with the baby carrots is we're going to attach them to either side like this, and then we're going to wrap the hand around like it's ripping its mouth open, okay? Alright, so remember, anytime we do this, we have to scratch. So I'm scratching down here. So looking where that goes, okay? I'm going to scratch there. I'll pull out my handy dandy brush because I like this. It's a little easier than my finger. And just brush a little bit of water on both surfaces. I'm going to take this and squish it in. So this is basically an arm, but no hand yet, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So we've attached an arm on the side with a little knob sticking out the front. See how that sticks out? Okay, we'll do something with that in a minute. Now we'll do the other side. So I'll try to match them up. You can make them weird if you want. You know, if you want a monster or something, you know, he can have odd shaped hands and feet and noses or whatever. All right, so we got a scratch. See where that goes. Scratch there. And use water and water. And squish that in. I like mine a little bumpy because, you know, it's a fun thing, but if you want it nice and smooth, just take your time. Just keep smushing it and cleaning it off. There we go. One thing I forgot to do with the feet is to pick toes. So, real quick before we move on, you can use anything if you're little, and I'm gonna put little creases in there for toes. I'm not cutting, I'm just making creases. So, see the little toes. All right, now we've got these two arms, and we want them to look like hands, like this. And so, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these and push them over into here. So, I'll do it from this side, roll that over, just easy pushing. Do the same on this side. And this can go as far in as you want. Like if you want to go way in, that's fine. Mine are just going to do the edges. So you can do it however you want. And then the great fingers, I'm just going to kind of crease. Not cutting, creasing each of the sides. And mine's only going to have 3 fingers, but you can have as many fingers as you want. Hopefully he looks like he's ripping his mouth open so you can hear the music, right? Or whatever you're listening to, podcast or anything. Alright, let's put some eyes on this guy. So we've got our clay that we have set aside. I'm going to create 2 balls. So again, this is your choice. You can make these tiny or huge, or you can make 3 eyeballs if it's a monster. Make 1 eyeball or no eyeballs or whatever. So, got two balls. I'm going to try to figure out where I want them. I'm going to make mine a little flatter, so almost like a frog's eyes. Almost like an egg, I guess, a Cadbury egg. We just had Easter, right? So figure out the, I think she did the nose first. I'll do the eyes first. Whatever's easiest for you. Alright, so figure out where those go. I'm going to go ahead and attach. Remember, we scratch the bottom and we scratch where it goes. Get pretty rough with it. Don't skimp on the scratching. Add a little water, both sides. Hold it, squeeze that down. Same on the other side. Scratch. Water and squeeze. Alright, I'm going to wait to create the eyeballs. I'll show you that in a minute. Or the pupils and stuff inside. What my wife did was she carved them in, right? She used the little toothpick to carve them in. I'm going to do a little different, but we can wait on that. Now, I didn't leave a lot of room for our nose, so ours will be kind of small, but that's okay. Mine's gonna kind of come down a little bit. So I'm gonna make a little tube like thing. goes. Okay. So now it's going to stick down a little bit. If you want them to have nostrils, you can just kind of poke a couple holes in the bottom. Bloop, bloop, like a pig. Alright, so a little water. Sides. Attach the nose. Squish it. So he looks kind of funny. I like it. Alright, that won't get in the way of your sound, I promise. Now with my wife, she carved in the thing. I'm going to make it with an indention. So I'm going to use the backside of my paintbrush. Anything you have can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push in. So push in. Push in. Okay. Alright, so a little different, right? Alright, we're almost there. So he looks like a weird dude with a big mouth. He's got a big hole in him that you want to smooth out when you get a chance. I have not smoothed mine out yet, but for the sake of time, we're going to keep moving. Alright, our last part that we're going to do, that you can add more, but this is what we're going to finish off on, is a tail or a kickstand. So on the back side, we're going to add something. So here we have just a basic tail. And what that does, when it sits on the table, it keeps it from rocking backwards when you stick your phone in, because that weight will rock it back if we didn't. Okay? So, ours is basic. I'm going to make mine a little longer, I think. So, with that clay we had left over, you don't want it too small because it might break off when we're trying to get it back here. So, don't make it too big, but not too small, if that makes sense. So I'm going to make another baby carrot. Remember those. Figure out where I want it. Okay. Try to get as much surface connection as you can. I'll scratch where that's going to touch. Scratch where it's going to touch here. Alright, then I'll some water. Water. Squish. Now once you get it attached, you can play with the shape. So I'm going to pinch mine a little bit to make it triangular. I can make scales on there, I can add some things, anything you want. But that's what's going to keep it from falling backwards with your phone inside. Okay. Tail on there. Now you just want to take time, and if you want to have any textures or anything, you can add skin or scales or weird moles. You can take little, bits of the clay and just add them on. So remember to always scratch. So maybe he's got a mole right here on his face. One more thing that I'm going to add that she didn't, that you can, is a tongue, right? Everybody's got tongues, I think. So I'm going to take one of our pieces we have left. This is one of the cutouts from the opening. You get to decide what shape you want, if you want a tongue. Just flattening it out. Tongues aren't that thick, unless you want it to be, I guess. Look for where I want that. I'm going to scratch. You can put a crease in here. Tongues have that little crease in the middle, so I'm going to put a little crease. Nothing crazy. Scratch where that touches. Don't go too far back. You don't want your phone to be too far sitting on the tongue, but if it sits a little bit, that's fine. squeeze and push down and smooth. So now your guy is yelling with his tongue out, not just yelling. So he's ripping his mouth open, sticking his tongue out. He's weird. Alright, so here we go. That's mine, my wife's. Notice her nose is a little different, so you can figure out how to do that. Just a little blob with the push the nose nostrils in, and she's got all these feet. So if you want to get crazy with the feet, have fun. All right, make sure you pick a color. We hope you have a great Memorial Day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.